Hello, everyone. This is our lesson on the different branches of Judaism. The term movements is most used and accepted in Judaism. So we have four main movements: Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, and Reconstructionist. Yet there are others. There's Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, some of you may have heard of. There's Hasidic Judaism. There's different types of Orthodox Judaism, like Hasidic, for example, but these are the four major ones. Well, really, the three major: Orthodox, Reform, and Conservative. Then we can talk about one more minor, newer, smaller one, and that'd be Reconstructionist. But basically, all of Judaism is united and cohesive as one religion, without any major broken down groups, splintered rival groups, if you will. But then the European Enlightenment hits in recent history, and it really affects a lot in basically European culture, society, and all these different countries throughout Europe. Things that were generally accepted as major guiding principles in culture and society were directly challenged and confronted, and really it's a major seeking of change is adopted. So the European Enlightenment hits Europe, and it hits Judaism, as well too. The Jews in Germany and France and what we call Russia today are all greatly affected by the European Enlightenment as well. Basically, some of the principles are, the divine right of a king to rule as king because they're appointed by God. So monarchies are challenged and replaced with like a liberal democracy. Education is celebrated as being more of a basic human need, a necessary need for all humans to have and access to. A separation between science and religion; those shouldn't be so overlapping. There should be a separation between the two, and basically other academic disciplines. There should be more of a separation between them. This does hit Judaism as well. So there's a group of Jews called Reform Jews who seek to institute reforms in Judaism, but it's not everyone agrees with it, so they kind of splinter. There's a splintering in Judaism between two groups: a group that wants reforms called Reform Judaism, you guessed it, and then a group that disagrees with those reforms, and then they call themselves Orthodox. Orthodox Judaism is the originalist form of Judaism. They seek to retain, conserve, and preserve the original strict adherence to the teachings of original Judaism and all of its laws as best as humanly possible, thus with the least amount of cultural modernizations and updates. So the strictest adherence possible of Jewish laws. That's called Orthodox Judaism. So adhere as best as you can with the least amount of updates and changes to the 613 laws of Torah. So that's why the men, most Orthodox men, will have rather long hair due to Leviticus. Men and women will worship separately. There's a full separation of the sexes, regardless if they're married or related or a parental relationship of the opposite sex, regardless. So there's full separation, and sometimes a curtain down the middle that separates also visibility, or women sit in a balcony area above. Women cannot become rabbis, and they're for the most part only bar mitzvahs, not bat mitzvahs. So they're only coming of age ceremony for boys becoming men, not bat mitzvah ceremonies for girls becoming women. Though there are some modern Orthodox Jews that do celebrate the bat mitzvah, to be honest. Hebrew is overwhelmingly used in the Shabbat weekly services. The yarmulke, that's how you spell yarmulke. The talit, the prayer shawl, sometimes with two L's instead of one. And the tefillin, those are used for Shabbat services and daily prayers. And then you have the traditional black hat and black coat is worn by men too. And you're definitely following the traditional laws, all 613 of them, including with the kosher diet and the regulation of no work on the Sabbath, no work on the Sabbath. So many Orthodox Jewish families will walk to temple, to synagogue on Shabbat. They will not drive. They will not. Reform says in Germany, and some major leaders In Orthodox Judaism were German Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, Theodor Herzl, as well too. There's a union, an Orthodox union of 1,000 synagogues in North America, as well too. And there's an Orthodox Union kosher division which certifies 660,000 products in 77 countries to help oversee all that too. But you have to rely on the traditional rabbis who reject many modern forms of historical scholarship and for Orthodox Judaism. Reform Judaism from the early 19th century, like the 1850s in Germany, and then it migrates to the US, says we can embrace modern mainstream European life. We can embrace modernity, modern European life, without losing our Jewish identity. We can do that. It's not zero sum. To gain something, we have to lose something. No, we're not going to shed, or we're not going to lose or shed our Jewish identity and core by embracing the surrounding European lifestyle. So they argue that we should leave the ghettos. Ghetto, I know you may be laughing now, but ghetto is actually a Yiddish term that Jews applied to themselves because they lived in these isolated Jewish communities and establishments, enclaves. They separated themselves from their fellow German country people and surrounding French villages. They really lived in their own ghettos, which is actually a Yiddish term. The early influence was Moses Mendelssohn and his teachings. So he's kind of a precursor. Where he argued for let's embrace the surrounding civic cultural life in Europe. We're not going to lose our Jewish heritage, our Jewish identity whatsoever. We can accommodate modern culture. And so many of them becomes very popular in America. They move to America, especially adopting platforms, their beliefs in the Pittsburgh platform and the Columbus platform that you see here in 1885, that only the moral laws are binding. The other commandments are not adapted to the views and habits of modern civilization. So the diet, priestly purity, the dress, they're not under the influence of those laws anymore, just the moral laws. The moral laws. So because of that, there is no separation of the sexes. Men and women can sit together. Services do have some Hebrew, but they embrace the vernacular as well, the language that you speak, whether it's German, French, English, Portuguese, whatever it is. The talit and the tefillin are optional. They're not mandatory at all. Women can become rabbis and bat mitzvahs, not just bar mitzvahs. There is gay marriage, same-sex marriage as well too in the Reform movement. It really comes down to the autonomy, the independence of individuals who can determine what laws and customs they want to continue in their form of Judaism. So modern culture is good. It should be engaged. It's acceptable to study the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, with modern critical scholarship. You get to basically decide for yourself what doctrines and practices should be plausible, and this continued and followed. Conservative Judaism, and again in the mid-1800s, breaks with the Reform movement, develops in the United States, and kind of mixes Orthodox Judaism with Reform Judaism. It's a moderate bridge position, moderate in the middle between conservative Judaism is a moderate middle-of-the-road approach between Orthodox Judaism and Reform Judaism. So they mix and mingle Orthodox practices and Reform beliefs itself. So a big influence would be Rabbi Frankel. He would be a big influence here for conservative Judaism. They see Orthodox and Reform somewhat as extreme. They seek to conserve some traditional elements while allowing reasonable modernization with the help of rabbis. So they want a dynamic interaction with contemporary culture, for sure, as well. But to be honest, conservative Judaism kind of agrees with Reform. Women can become rabbis. The bat mitzvah is allowed. Um, Men and women sit together. You can use Hebrew. In the Shabbat, the vernacular as well too. The talit, the tefillah, and the yarmulke, those are all optional as well. And then there's Reconstructionists, which is a small group founded by a former conservative rabbi in the United States. His name is Mordecai Kaplan in 1922. It's really secular in that every Jew, every individual Jew has the right to reconstruct Judaism in the best way they see fit. So retain and keep the elements of traditional Judaism that you see are important based off your individual interpretation. So it's you get to blend it in the best way you see possible. It's based in Wyancotte, Pennsylvania, and has about 110 congregations. It does consider itself as a fourth branch movement of Judaism, but as you can see, it is quite small with that limited number. That limited number, only 110. It is the newest, to be fair, as well, to them. But for instance, so 110 and Reconstructionist Judaism congregations, whereas conservative has about 900 synagogues, and Reform Judaism has a little bit less than that, and the same with Orthodox. So Orthodox, Reform, and Reconstructionists would have hundreds each. Reconstructionist only has 110, but it is the newest. It is the newest. So there's your brief breakdown and analysis of these four different communities in Judaism. So Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, and Reconstructionist itself. All right, everyone, have a great day.